What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. That is extremely important to circumvent shadow banning and social media censorship. And with that out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have to head on over to Denver. Why are we going to Denver? Because recently, the mayor of Denver made these comments right here. Denver mayor threatens to deploy cops and 50,000 residents in Tiananmen Square moment to stop Trump's mass deportations. That sounds like civil war talk to me. You have the mayor of a city, who is the leader of the city, saying that I am going to deploy cops and 50,000 residents. Me, I'm telling you, I'm going to send them out in defiance of the federal government attempting to do its job lawfully. Nothing that is going to happen with Tom Homan being the border czar under Donald Trump as it pertains to extracting illegal immigrants out of Denver. None of what they're going to do is illegal. They're literally just trying to do their job. And you have the leader of the city threatening to deploy cops and 50,000 residents to stop the federal government. That's civil war talk, if you ask me. And if the roles were reversed and Denver happened to be a more red city with a Republican mayor, and he was saying these things in defiance of Joe Biden, you'd never hear the end of it. You literally would never hear the end of it. But because it's the other way around and it's a Democrat city with a Democrat mayor talking like this, well, of course, it's silence, and you're only going to hear about it on a handful of news outlets and channels like myself. Now, before we get deeper into this, what I want to do right now is that I want to switch over to this article here, right? Trump border czar Tom Homan plans PR war over migration and repatriations. I want to get into this article here because I think it's very important before we go back into the Denver mayor to hear from Tom Homan's mouth as much as possible concerning the plans that they have for mass deportation. Because once again, if you're going to get it from MSNBC, God forbid, or ABC, CBS, or CNN, you're going to get a skewed reality that isn't actually going to happen, right? They're going to lie to you about those. They're going to lie to you about military men marching through the streets, kicking in doors, and snatching people out of their homes, when that's the farthest thing from the truth. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Now, the biggest thing and biggest problem that they have is the PR nightmare that those who are pro illegal immigration are going to try to wage on them, right? A PR war, you can say. And the angle that they're going to continue to use, which is what they've been using, is the angle of family separation. You're taking fathers and mothers away from their children, so on and so forth. But what I found particularly interesting about that narrative is that, as you can see here, Homan has a tough enemy. Pro-migration advocates, pro-illegal immigration advocates, have their own poll-tested narratives. For me personally, that stood out because I thought it was very interesting that these are actually poll-tested narratives. They understand how these narratives pull at the heartstrings of people, to which they're trying to get the reaction of, oh, we need to stop mass deportation because you're separating families, right? So once again, I just thought that that was very interesting, that once again, it's not something that they're just saying just to say, but they have their own internal polling, right? These pro-illegal immigration advocacy groups, right? These NGOs, non-governmental organizations, these nonprofits have their own internal polling that shows what narratives work against the people and what doesn't, right? But as it pertains to family separation, here's what Tom Homan has to say concerning the real truth behind that. And Tom Homan states, there's never been a bigger separator of families than Joe Biden's border chief, Alejandro Mayorkas, said Jay Palmer. Excuse me, that wasn't Tom Homan, that was Jay Palmer, an expert in labor trafficking, expert and former advisor to Donald Trump. What he did was he ripped foreign families apart, left the kids there, and brought the men to the United States to work as cheap labor. And this indeed is the truth. The article continues to read, The American people need to hear the tragedy of mass migration, Homan said. Biden's migration has killed thousands of migrants, Homan said, adding, I was down in Texas last year and I was with a sheriff. I was with him for 4 hours. We found 2 dead bodies. He told me he's lucky to find 10% of the bodies because the animals have taken them. They won't find a lot of them who drowned in the river. This is something that gets completely swept under the rug. Outside of the foolishness that comes from illegal immigrants once they come into the country, those who then engage in crime like Tren de Aragua, what they don't talk about is how many illegal immigrants lose their life on their way here. So when you want to talk about blood being on the Biden administration's hand, it's not just the Lake and Rileys of the United States, right? It's not just that. It's the blood of the illegal immigrants that when they got the green light to come here from Harrison Biden, they came here and lost their lives trying to come here. We're talking about thousands of bodies at this point, but nobody wants to talk about that. I stood on the back of a smuggler's tractor trailer, and 19 dead aliens were baked to death, including a 5-year-old little boy. So if people wore my shoes for 34 years and seen the tragedies and senseless death that I've seen, they'd understand me that a secure border saves lives. Obviously, not just in the US, but for those who are attempting to come over here. But once again, that side of the story is never spoken about. But now I want to get into some more of his comments concerning the separation of families, right? Because I think that that's really important as well to highlight that part, and how Tom Homan feels about it. And I'm of the same mindset with him. Tom said, migrants know the law and often take many steps to evade enforcement, he said. So if you come to the country illegally and you get an order of removal from a judge, but you hide out, and if you decide to have a child that becomes a U.S. citizen, that's on you, he said. Having a child in the United States does not give you amnesty, and that is 100% correct. We make these connections here on this channel all the time. How many times have we talked about this? If I get found guilty of a crime and a judge sentences me, and upon sentencing, I'm able to break out of the courtroom, I get away, I escape. I evade the police as a fugitive now for 5 years. When I get caught, I don't get to say, but what about my family? What about my child? What about my wife? That has nothing to do with nothing. You've been sentenced already, and it's time for you to go to jail. And the same thing goes for the deportation efforts. You've been sentenced to be deported. The deportation order is already on your name. You got to get out of here. There's nothing illegal happening about this. So the first step from Homan is that what they're going to do is that they're going to go after the criminal element first, because that's the easiest to go after and deport. And then you have those who have already had their day in court concerning their amnesty case. And they are documented now for having an order of removal. They have been ordered to be deported because the judge found their asylum claim to be fraudulent. I repeat, the judge found their asylum claim to be fraudulent. So a deportation order has been placed on them already. So once again, when you're going after them, nothing illegal is happening, because you're literally a documented fugitive who is evading ICE. Once we catch you, it is our legal right to deport you. There's nothing illegal happening here. No doors are getting kicked in. No neighborhoods are being swept. And this is something that Tom Homan has had to speak on so many times over and over and over again. And I quote, "This won't be neighborhood sweeps. This is a targeted enforcement operation. We know exactly who we are going to arrest before we leave office. Every arrest we make has been approved by a supervisor. We know exactly who we are looking for. We have a pretty good idea of where we're going to find them. They have to get approval to do it. So it's going to be a well-planned, humane operation." So all this talk about doors getting kicked in and fathers and mothers getting dragged and ripped away from their families is false. It's false. So now you have to ask yourself, why is it that people like the mayor of Denver and the governor of Massachusetts are so desperate to protect people like this? Because what you see on your screen right here, photo, ICE arrests 2 illegals charged with child blank, one Brazilian fugitive in Massachusetts. Child blank, the blank standing for the R word. These 2 illegals were charged with child's play, as I often say. Why is the governor of Massachusetts opposed to having them removed by ICE? Why is the mayor of Denver opposed to having them removed from his city? That's a question that you have to ask. Why are they so desperate to protect these people? And why are you so desperate to protect fugitives to which a judge has already said that their asylum claim is fraudulent and now they have a deportation order on them? Why are you now trying to protect those fugitives as well, who have already gone through the process and have been found essentially guilty, but you want to hold on to them? That's the question that you have to ask. Now, what I want to do right now, before we get into the Denver mayor, I want to shift over to this man right here, Richard Allen Grenell, better known as Rick Grenell, right? I want to read this off right here, a little bit of his bio, because what he's going to do right now in a video that I'm getting ready to play is that he's going to talk about how the Trump administration plans on getting around the foolishness of these governors and mayors that are planning on standing in his way. He's going to address that. But I do want to take a moment to read his bio very quickly because I think it's very important. Richard Allen Grenell is an American political operative, diplomat, and public relations consultant. He served as acting director of national intelligence under President Donald Trump in 2020, becoming the first openly gay holder of a cabinet level position in the history of the United States. I only point that out once again, becoming the first openly gay holder of a cabinet level position in the United States. I only point that out and highlight it because I find it so funny that over the past couple of days, you've been hearing so much about Trump doesn't have any black people in his cabinet. Where are the black people at in his cabinet? I mean, that's not what anybody voted for when he voted for Trump. But anyways, those who don't like Trump keep saying, where are the black people at in his cabinet, right? Well, I mean, I'm sure some of them are happy now because he did appoint one black man. So there you got that. But my point is this. Had Biden appointed the first openly gay holder of a cabinet level position in the history of the United States, you would have heard all about it. They would have been screaming that from the top of the roof, screaming it from the top of the mountain. But when Trump does it, silent, quiet. That's all. That's all. I just wanted to highlight that. I just wanted to highlight that for a moment. Now let's get into the actual video.
And you still have the governors of California and Massachusetts saying we're not going to let Trump in. How do you guys deal with that?
Look, I think a long time ago, conservatives should have been fighting on this issue. The idea of a sanctuary city sounds like a real nice spa day, but it's actually undermining the rule of law. We should have immediately said, no, in America, you don't get to pick and choose which federal laws you follow. We're not going to have that. And so if you don't like the law, go and change it. But you have to follow the law. Right now, we have a comfortable set of governors in different states who are very comfortable in ignoring federal law. Now they don't want someone to come in and say, you've got to follow the law. I still think that the Supreme Court would be on our side. The rule of law is important. Following immigration laws is crucial in this country if you want to have a country. You don't like it?
And would the courts enable you guys to get around these governors? Would that is that a legal fight?
For sure, because we're just enforcing the law. They're the ones who are saying we want to break the law and we don't want you to punish us for breaking the law. The rule of law is very important in the United States. You don't like the law, work to change it.
So now look and see how, as he stated, if you don't like the law, you work to change the law. But Democrats are trying to work to change the law. They lost the election. So now what do they want to do? We're going to stand in defiance of the federal government and deploy cops and 50,000 residents to stop the federal government, essentially, once again, attempting to engage in some sort of civil war type activity. Now, what's hilarious about that statement is that the Denver mayor has now since tried to walk it back. he had to do a special interview to try to soft shoe walk back those comments. Though he didn't 100% walk it back, he did have to engage in a little damage control, right, concerning that statement. And I want to get into that right now.
Mayor Johnston told Denverite that if President-elect Donald Trump makes good on his plan to send a federal force in to deport every single person here without documentation, then, quote, more than us having DPD stationed at the county line to keep them out, you would have 50,000 Denverites there. It's like the Tiananmen Square moment with the rose and the gun, right? State law prohibits DPD from enforcing immigration law, but DPD wouldn't say if they would try to actively obstruct mass deportations by the feds.
I want to just ask you very specifically, are you open to sending Denver police officers to the county line to stop federal forces or National Guardsmen from other states from coming into Denver?
We have no plan to do that. And we really hope that we don't ever have to do that. I think
no plan, but are you open to it?
What we're going to do right now is, it's hard to keep an eye on what the future president actually plans to do and what the proposal actually is.
It sounds to me like you're walking back the comments from a couple days ago saying that you would be willing to send Denver police officers. Do you regret making those comments and now getting questions like this?
Would I have taken it back if I could? Yes, I probably wouldn't have used that image because that's an image I hope we can avoid. What I was trying to say is this is an outcome I hope we can avoid in this country. I think none of us want that.
You talk about.
Listen to the language. Like I said, he soft shoe walked it back, but not really. He keeps saying, I hope we can avoid this. I don't plan on doing this. Do you regret making that statement, sir? Now you have to answer to these questions. His response was, yes, I shouldn't have made that statement because I said, as people like to say, the quiet part out loud. I know that what I want to do is illegal, and I got beside myself and said it out loud. So I do regret saying it out loud. But now, as I'm speaking to you right now, I'm letting you know I don't plan on doing it, and I hope things don't have to go that far. He's not saying that he will obey the law because what he's trying to do and what he would like to do is unlawful. He's just simply stating, I hope we don't have to take it there. This is where we are in this country. Look at how desperately these people want to protect criminals, those who have openly defied the law, and those who are literally fugitives in this country, right? Not just simply from the standpoint of you crossed the border illegally and that automatically makes you a criminal by default. I'm talking about those who went through the process of asylum, were denied by a judge. The judge just then put a deportation order on them, and they have since fled to go live their life and start a family. And now because they started a family, even though they knew that they're a fugitive on the run, somehow you're supposed to have some sort of sympathy. But once again, the roles were reversed. And I, TD, an American citizen, if I was a fugitive running from the police and I started a family, but then got caught, nobody would care about the outcome of my family. But you're supposed to care about the outcome of those who knowingly broke the law, knowingly became fugitives. You know there's a deportation order out on you, but you're trying to use your child as a shield for amnesty. Shame on you. Shame on you. And shame on these governors and mayors for trying to stand in the way of the federal government doing their job that we elected them to do. That's why Trump won in a landslide, in a bloodbath. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And also don't forget to follow me on Telegram and Rumble at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram and Rumble is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. And to the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.